Welcome, everyone. Let's talk a bit about how to really capitalize on your data. A bit about the company. So my name is Jonne Heikkinen, and a bit about the company that I represent is Solida, the fastest growing creative tech company in Nordics. Out of those 500, 150 are getting their bread and butter from analytics at the moment. And it's growing. It's the fastest growing area in our company. We just recently arrived to Stockholm, but we're originally from Finland. So I come from data science background. I've done machine learning for the last 5-6 years for industry, ranging from different kind of domains from retail, media, manufacturing industry, airline industry. And I've really come to see what are those things that data science teams that really do things well, what do they really do? What do they have in common? And on the other hand, those organizations that struggle to capitalize on data, why is it that? Why is it so? So I'm going to share a bit about my experiences on the subject. So let's move forward. Like there was in the first talk about data value chain. If you look at the same thing and go a bit more topmost level, it's really about acquiring data. So identifying what are those operative data sources that can be used to really capitalize on data. Then it's about storing, modeling, making it accessible. And after the 80% of the work has been done, then it's about analyzing. But it really doesn't stop there, because if the last part, act, doesn't really happen, then the value is never realized from the data. So the reason why the act doesn't really happen is because there's two different worlds. Either the data is not even recognized as an asset, or the initiative is stuck somewhere in between the acquire, process, and analyze part, but never really turns into an action. Last October, I was here in Stockholm in Nordic Data Science Summit, good event by the way, and something that was constantly in the discussions during that event was not so that this is technically difficult, not so that data science is technically really difficult, but rather it's really difficult to get all the different stakeholders, their managers, aboard and really on the same mission with the data scientists. And now when I look at the attendee list, I saw that it's quite a lot of the same companies present, but actually some of here now are their managers. So basically I'm delivering the message from the Nordic Data Science Summit and including that in this speech. So first of all, the first world where you struggle to capitalize on data, they come from, let's think about where the acquire, processing, and analyze might work, but the act doesn't happen. They are really, really good when it comes to processing data, storing, modeling it. They're really good on upkeeping the data quality. They are really good to different kind of governance policies. They are really good at building fancy pipelines, data pipelines. But quite often, it still happens so that the infrastructure is not perfectly capitalized. The infrastructure, the architecture doesn't turn into value. And this is often justified just to build more capabilities, which is, in my head, it's a bit wrong, because if the act doesn't really happen, then you're not building the right kind of capabilities. On the other hand, you have these innovators, the ones who are building new services, innovating, doing fast, rapid experimentation. They are the ones with curly hair, and they're the ones with round goggles, and they're the ones with shirt tucked in high. And quite like actually my colleague Mikko over there, back there. However, he can also code, but he's like the typical innovator kind of person. But the reason why they are not actually even, they don't know what data is really available. They don't really even recognize that the machine learning could really be something that they should be considering in their services. They don't really, because like building machine learning and AI solutions is ultimately about feedback loops. It's ultimately about learning from the things that you do. And if they don't recognize that machine learning is part of their service solution, then the feedback loop afterwards is really difficult to implement. So in this talk, I will, and actually all those innovator teams, I haven't seen data warehousing experts or data scientists participate in that quite often. But in this talk, I want to talk about what those organizations really do that capture on data, capture the value of data from both of these perspectives. So first of all, those organizations that really capture the value of data, they know appropriate goals and actions. Because with a landscape like this, it's really easy to lose focus. It's really easy to start sub-optimizing lean principles, thinking about the build, measure, learn loop, or it's really easy to go there and start doing cost efficiency, premature optimization too early. Yeah, feel free to take pictures. This is something that I put my cognitive effort to. Hey, but before we think about the goals and actions, it's really important to know who's the decision maker. Is it human or is it machine? Because let's take an example from media, for example. If the case is human, let's say your customer is a journalist, and you're doing data analysis for the journalist to really help them understand what is the context that their customers are reading their articles in, for example. If you think about the different kind of actions you have to do to really influence on the journalist, they are very different when the decision maker is a human. The model has to be understandable, can't really be a black box. It's emphasis on visualization, integrating into business processes. On the other hand, if you think about building like a content recommendation system, it's more about the system can really be a black box, as long as it works. The system is doing hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of decisions every single day, whereas on the other way around, there's far less decisions, but could be the single decision is far more important. So having the right kind of, knowing what kind of actions you really can take is really important. And once you know who's the decision maker, you can really dig down as a data scientist, I like to use the 5 whys. Asking why until I get to the atomic level. Often 5 is not enough, but something like that. So asking why until I get the atomic level, I really understand how the business works. Then we can really start to understand, okay, what do we need to do at each one of these spaces? And how do we integrate that to the existing business processes? This is quite often left on the shoulders of data scientists. However, it's something that business owners, decision makers should be also interested in. So let's go back to the gap between those two different worlds. Remember, data management people and the innovators. If you think about the data management people, it might be so that I'm going to be a bit, generalize a bit, emphasize my point. But previously, data management and data warehousing, it was building reports for budgeting purposes. The annual cycle, so you could have a deadline, let's say 10 months from now on. So it's not something that you have to push in a really short period of time. It's about having the right quality. It's about those numbers being as correct as possible. On the other way around, if you think about those innovators, they're the ones who on Monday, they are really identifying what's possible. On Tuesday, they might be thinking about, okay, let's narrow our scope down a bit. On Wednesday, they might be thinking at, okay, what kind of services we really could build on top of that. And on Friday, they might be even testing the prototype with real customers. These are very two different kind of frequencies. And if you think that innovators would use data, it should be a bit closer. So let's take an example. Let's go back to the media example. Let's build a recommendation engine. So it's first about acquiring data. acquiring data about how the user is scrolling up and down, getting really granular level data. So the data becomes so much that you really have to build a cluster. If the system is on-premise, you have to first call the IT, hey, I need 5 servers, please. Quite often it happens so, at least in Finland, when the holidays are quite long. Jarkko is on holiday and will be back after 2 months. And when Jarkko gets back, Jarkko is saying, actually, we don't have those licenses anymore. You have to ask from his boss. So it takes ages. It takes really, really, really long. And actually, it takes so long that the innovator group have already decided, I'm going to go for something else. So once that thing is ready, it's too late. But it doesn't really have to be like this. You can really experiment fast in cloud. Our job application, part of our job application is an exam, practical assignment, where you have to build this kind of solution, and you have 5 hours time frame. And some people actually manage to do that. But 5 hours, it's a very clutchy solution, but nevertheless, from months to days. You also have to have end-to-end capability, meaning that that team has to have the decision-making power within, so that there's no structures or no offset from waiting the permission to move forward from someone else. The team has to have decision-making power on what kind of technologies they use, and there has to be a flat decision-making hierarchy. Okay, data scientists are also to blame. If you ask from a data scientist, do you want all data? Hell yeah, I want all data, because the better data I have, I'm injuring myself. I mean, I'm doing an insurance on my results. On the other hand, if you ask from the data scientist, can you show a little bit of value with just a little bit of data? Yeah, I can. It's about expectation management that way. So basically, it's about experimenting fast and seeing whether the approach is feasible, rather than using months and then realizing, oh, hell, this is something that I don't really even get to use. So when you come, if it's not only the data scientist, but also the global enterprise solution lead senior architects, or persons like that who think about architectures first, they think about, okay, it must be really, really solid and governed, and data security, well, that is important. Let's not take that into discussion. But all those aspects that might be premature optimization, they're doing the same as data scientists. They're insuring themselves. So because if something goes wrong, they are the ones to blame. So as a product owner, as a business manager, as a lead of something, you have to realize that they are just pulling the rope as much as possible. So it's your responsibility to enable rapid experimentation by not saying yes to everything. So not going from downwards to upwards, thinking about all the possible data sources, making the integration data vaults, and then thinking about what can we do with the data. So no building capabilities, but rather start from the business case and then identifying what kind of data do I need, but still building it on a solutions that can be used future on. If at this point you didn't realize that building these solutions require a multidisciplinary team, well, stating it explicitly, you need multidisciplinary teams. You need teams combining of data warehousing experts, data engineers, service designers, someone who thinks how to make this tangible. There is no ready-made method for this one. There is no, or there are some methods, but still the most important thing is from the different stakeholders, when you take the multidisciplinary team, you swipe their calendars off, free for the first 2 weeks. It's far less expensive to spend that money on those persons' availability in the early on than making a team from different business units, and then they have already their calendars booked to 60 to 80%, and then you start to make them collaborate with one another. What happens? 2 months, couple emails, some smoke, nothing really happens. But if you really put the team in a single space, give them time, space, and tools, really nice things start to happen. really amazing things start to happen. So it's really about building this kind of culture from bottom up instead of trying to manage it from top. For example, a customer of ours, DNA, a Finnish telecom company, with this kind of approach, they have reached really amazing results. They've been able to reduce the time spent on their marketing efforts from 2 weeks, not calendar time spent in total, to 15 minutes. They've managed to increase their conversion rates in marketing efforts 3 times than the before. AI increased sales 200%. So it's really about applying these simple things. If you want to hear more about the DNA case, there's actually in after 5 minutes, the technology round starts. So we have an expo booth back there, Solita. So come to our booth, and we can tell you more about these things. That was my topic. Thank you. I hope you got something food for thought for your future week.